Hey there friends, I put together a really different video for you guys today, and it's based on a sad situation that has occurred. But first, while you guys are watching this video, think about my friends over at Attorneys on Retainer and how if you had to use your gun to defend yourself from these thugs, and I'm about to show you how these guys would help you if you needed to contact Attorneys on Retainer if you were in fact successful at defending yourself. Unfortunately, not like this lady that I'm about to show you was. Attorneys on Retainer will take your call. They will defend you regardless of the type of shoot and regardless of what the person on the phone that answers the 800 number thinks, whether they think you're guilty or not. Doesn't matter. Attorneys on Retainer is going to take care of you. Use my discount code FTATF. Again, FTATF is my discount code. That's going to get you 50% off at the time of sign up. That's your sign up fee discount of 50%. Sign up fee is $100, so you're going to save $50 right off the top. Check them out. Attorneys on Retainer. Use my discount code FTATF. Cell phone video emerged showing a man with a gun allegedly carjacking an SUV in broad daylight at a traffic light near Winter Springs, Florida.
Seminole County deputies are now working to figure out who is behind an armed carjacking and murder.
Investigators say Catherine Aguas Vivas is presumed dead after her body was found inside her burned out SUV. As West News' Gail Pascal Brown tells us, the carjacking was first reported in Winter Springs and the body was found in Osceola County.
The only witness to call 911 also recorded this video at a stoplight Thursday of an armed carjacking and kidnapping at Tuscaloosa and East Lake Drive in Seminole County. Listen to the caller.
He was chasing the car, hit the car, got out of his car with a hood over his face and had a machine gun, it looked like, got in the car with the other guy. Except
investigators say it was 31-year-old Catherine Aguavivas of Homestead that the suspect got into the white Durango with. Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lima said she called her husband moments before, right after the green Acura rammed her bumper.
She called her husband. The husband said, "Don't leave the car." No reports to law enforcement.
Seminole County deputies responded around 5:30 p.m. About an hour and 45 minutes later, investigators say the victim was forced to drive here to this construction site off Boggy Creek Road in Osceola County. Now, this is where witnesses say they heard gunshots and they saw smoke. This is also where they found a body and a burned out vehicle.
We believe that to be the vehicle and the decedent to be Catherine, but we have to positively confirm that. We do feel that the occupants of the green Acura, both the driver and at least one other person that got out of the car and entered into the Durango, knew exactly who they were following.
But why? That's what the sheriff's office is trying to figure out, a motive.
The initial report that was provided to us was Catherine was traveling to Central Florida to visit with family members. We know of no family members that are living in Central Florida.
He says the victim nor her husband have any criminal history in the U.S.
This was not a random act of violence, that the perpetrators knew exactly who they were going after.
Detectives are looking for the suspects and this late model green Acura TL. If you see it, don't approach it. Just call law enforcement.
Very sad, guys, and there is a reason why I'm doing this in my own vehicle. If you watch the video, clearly she opened up her front door. Now, look, I'm going to be the first one to say that you don't know what you would do in that type of situation. At least you don't think you know what you would do. I don't think my wife would open the door up. Now, I'm not comparing my wife to this lady. She probably had her reasons. It doesn't say she had a kid in the car, but who knows what that conversation was. You know what I mean? It could have been a threat or something like that. Oh, I know where you live. I'm going to go kill your family. Something like that. Nevertheless, she didn't listen to her husband. She didn't keep driving. She didn't keep the doors locked. I would like to think that if I were in the same situation, first of all, be aware of your surroundings. You know, people are so busy playing on their phones these days. She may have been sidetracked and not even seen the person come up. But I'm looking at one rearview mirror here. I'm looking at one rearview mirror over there. It's possible that she could have easily seen. I see a side mirror on her SUV. So this is how the person approached her vehicle. If you look in my mirror, I put this tripod with a red baseball cap on top of it, about 5.5 feet tall, roughly the size that this guy, that thug that robbed this lady or took her car, that he would have been. You can clearly see in my rearview mirror. You can't see in my main mirror right in the vehicle, but my side mirror, you can see clearly this person would have been coming up at that same direction that you saw in the video. So be aware of your surroundings. You'll also notice she was the front car. So she wasn't trapped in there other than the fact that there was a light and maybe she was fearful of getting in an accident. This was somebody bumping her and they had her singled out. Maybe they knew her. Maybe there's a whole lot more to the story that we don't know. Sounds like a hit to me. But nevertheless, if she was an innocent person, this vehicle was tailing her, ramming into her. You know how they do that fake bumping into you so you get out, try to exchange insurance papers and they rob you. Could have been that. But no matter what, this lady could have driven out into traffic if she knew there was that real danger. In other words, if she knew those people, knew what they were after, and knew they were going to kill her, surely she would have had enough sense to move up into the traffic. That's why I'm wondering if she did know who they were. The reason why I'm sitting in my vehicle with my seatbelt on is I want to show the type of situation that you can get in when you hop in and just don't think about how you're positioned. I carry on my right hip. If I'm going to be driving a lot during the day, I'm usually going to carry that firearm more at 3 o'clock on my body. In other words, to my immediately left off of my right hip. I do that because it doesn't sit back and get pushed into the back of my seat. It's something that now sits on the side of me. The thing you have to be careful for, in this case, I'm wearing a t-shirt. Make sure that when you get in that t-shirt is not pushed too far down, and then that seat belt goes in and binds that t-shirt even more to where it's that much harder to get to your firearm if you need to. I have a habit, sometimes it's for comfort reasons, but also for access, that when I hop in, put my seatbelt on, I immediately lift my t-shirt or my shirt that I'm wearing and get it out of that bind that seatbelt holds it in. For, again, it may be comfort reasons, maybe it's habit, but it's also, I know I can access it a lot faster. This type of carjacking, I would like to think myself and you guys have probably gone over in your head, at least you're probably going to now, how would I have handled this? You know, could I have accessed my firearm easily? Would I have seen this person? Could I have shot this person? Would I have the angle? You know, if they had that fully automatic, as they call it, if they had this what looked to be like a stabilizing brace pistol, or I don't know, it doesn't look like if it had a brace, maybe it was just a buffer tube, but nevertheless, if somebody had that and was aiming at me, would I have had time to access my sidearm? And would I have taken that chance to shoot that person knowing they were aiming that gun at me with likely a 5.56 round pointed at me? Now, the type of holster that I have is holstering my SIG P365. This is the Mission First tactical holster. What I like about their holsters is they have a pretty positive connect whenever that pistol goes inside of it, so it's not going to bounce free. I'm not a big fan of having an unholstered gun anywhere, especially if it's loaded. So I'm not a fan of taking the gun out of the holster and putting it somewhere in the vehicle whenever you're driving. I think that's a really bad idea, regardless of whether or not there are children around. If you feel like you would have better and quicker access to it by taking the whole holster out, then do that. I mean, mine would come out easy enough if I needed to unholster every time I drove. It's not that big of a deal. And I could put that simply sitting right on my console and have relatively quick access to it. So I feel safe if I had to do that. But that's not what I would normally do. Again, I would normally just unbind the area where my seatbelt is holding the shirt down so I could have relatively quick access to it, so that when I get in and out, that's the other thing, I don't want to forget my firearm on my console. Unlikely, because I can see it, but still, with it being on my person, I just feel like you get comfortable with it, you know? Probably most of you guys out there, your first time ever carrying, it was probably you really noticed it, right? Your first several days, you noticed it on your hip. It was very obvious, may not have been the most comfortable, but I bet a week after that, you didn't even notice. You notice if you're not wearing your firearm, it feels different. But when you're wearing it, it's just like the same feeling a belt buckle has when it might be pushing against you. So anyway, guys, just a lot of lessons to be learned looking at this video. This is heartbreaking. I don't know about her family, children, or anything like that. Again, she was married. But this is horrible. A young lady like this in her early 30s, being attacked like this. What an unfortunate situation, man. Use this as a lesson to learn, man. The boldness of the criminals these days is out of control. And the criminals do not fear anything. My guess is not enough of them are receiving the proper amount of lead therapy necessary to curb that desire to do whatever you want anymore. If you get my drift, I want the video to stay up, so I'm trying to dance around what YouTube is not going to like to hear me say. But if more people were to hand out the proper amount of lead therapy these days, when people do step out of line like this and do the things they're doing so brazenly and so bold like this, I mean, carjacking, brandishing a firearm out in the middle of broad daylight, did I say carjacking? Kidnapping, murder, arson. I mean, you just go down the list. I mean, I'm sure there's other things that once they find these guys, if they do, they're likely going to find a slew of other things. I would imagine the vehicle they were in, probably, since they were so slow about this and so out in the open about it in broad daylight at a red light with a bunch of other people around, was probably a stolen vehicle. And it's very unlikely that when they find that vehicle, they're going to find the criminals. They're, again, just like tracing a gun that's been stolen. You're going to find who originally owned it. You're not going to find the person who committed the crime. Just a horrible situation, man. I hope we can learn from this one. Unfortunately, we learn by others' mistakes sometimes, but hopefully we can put ourselves through this situation and look at it and say, okay, this is what I would have done, or what I would like to think I would do. You know, none of us can predict what we're going to do in that type of situation. But I think that if we were to start handing out a little bit more street justice, that we would see some of these numbers stop. These guys don't fear getting locked up. However, I would be willing to bet if you spoke to convicts, criminals, and people who are looking to do other people harm, if you ask them two things, what do you fear the most? Getting arrested or getting shot? Which one is it? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that, because with today's DAs, getting captured is not a big deal. Whoop-de-doo. Now you get a rap sheet, you get street cred, and you're back out on the street again doing exactly what you're doing to get in there. However, your likelihood for second chances whenever those of us who carry are dealing street justice, that likelihood of a second chance is a little bit slimmer.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's so horrible.